ever have a day when you had something that you thought was a really good start to a video and you couldn't remember what it was that you were going to say? Well, today is that day for me. I am going to talk about the subject of our places on the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host, I'm Kurt, and today is Saturday, the 14th of August of 2021. Welcome to everyone who's here on Rumble, on the podcast, and on YouTube. Thank you for coming along today. Again, the subject for today will be our places. And let me go ahead and read my notes real quick to let you see what I'm sort of thinking. It's fair to assume people who are and are not Christians will potentially live in substantially different places mentally, emotionally, psychologically, and spiritually. It's even reasonable to say two non-believers are likely to have different vantage points on life. But surely it can't be true that Christians live in so many substantially different places. Can it? Not only can that be the case, but it very obviously is. Could it be said that only one or a very few of the folks out there are in the correct place? I would go so far as to say, in an ultimate sense, actually none of us are. That said, though, those in defiance of God are technically not where they should be. But I would argue this. I would say I believe God is actually greater than that. I believe He keeps us or moves us into the positions He wants us to occupy via what one might term an unseen or invisible hand. Does that mean we're not culpable of wrongdoing? Not in the least. Just because God is in control does not mean our minds and hearts are where they ought to be. It's a matter of perspective, and I'll try and get into that in my video today and explain a little about what I mean, because a lot of people probably don't know what I mean by that. That said, I believe the places we find ourselves are where we need to be. The point here, at least in part, is disparaging others for their current position in life is typically not beneficial. Being willing to tell them their choices and actions are incorrect is another matter. The hard part is doing that with the proper attitude. If it's not done in love, and I should say I fail at this far too often, you're doing it wrong. Okay, that's the end of my notes. Let's get into the actual subject. Well, obviously, the point is my notes, as you probably have figured out right now, or by now, are sort of the root level of the subject. It's not that I say periodically, let's now get into the subject, but we're already there. Look, if two people are born at different times, even if you're totally secular in your perspective, okay, you have to acknowledge that, for example, my dad, who was, 9 years or something like that older than his younger sister, is going to be at a different stage of development than that sister. That makes sense, right? I think it makes sense. I can't see how you can say that it won't make sense. This is true for people who are Christian. And here's the funny part. If a person became Christian when they were 20, and they meet somebody who became a Christian when they were 45, and they're both now 50, the person who started at 20 might be far in advance of the person who's 50. Now, it might be possible the one who was 45 at the time he became a Christian. Now, it may be possible that actually the guy who was 45 matured much more rapidly, and he's actually in at least the same place, if not a better one. But my point in all of this is to say this. I believe that God puts us in the places we need to be. That doesn't mean our minds and our hearts are where they need to be. That's not what that means. And I'm going to talk for just a second about the idea of perspective. Okay? You're not God. Duh, right? You're going, I know that. So if you're not God, you cannot see the world through God's eyes. So even if God is directing what's going on, the fact that you're not God means that you don't know what's going on there. Now, there's this odd thing that we have to deal with. I forget the proper term for it. But anyway, the point is, it is this. It is that God must allow us free will if He can say, you did this wrong. He must give us the heart and mind, the spirit, the ability to do wrong. That must be possible, or how would He accuse us of wrongdoing when we did it? That said, I used to say that God can turn a bullet into a rose. by which I mean to say somebody shoots at you, the gun misfires, the gun fires, but miraculously, even though it looks like they were a dead aim and they had a clear shot, they still miss. Something goes between you and the bullet, whatever, right? The point is, God is the master of circumstance as far as I'm concerned. This is an expression I use. I'm probably not the first to use it. I've never heard anybody else use it, but that doesn't mean that people don't. So God can keep things from happening and make things happen. Okay, so the point is, when you have people in different places in their development as Christians, and when you have people who are not Christians, who are maybe working towards that, maybe not, maybe they never get there, but who are working towards Christianity, those people, all of those people, can potentially be in different places, and it's totally proper for that to be the case. I have a brother who I periodically disagree with. I have a couple of brothers who I periodically disagree with who are Christians on Christian doctrine and so forth. I'm the youngest brother, and I'm probably the last one to become a Christian. So there's a good chance there's some stuff I'm wrong on, and I'm not going to tell you otherwise. But at the same time, there are some things that I believe that at this point I think that they're wrong on. Maybe I'll find out that I'm mistaken about that, and I have to accept that that's a reality. But the point here is we're going to be in different places. And here's the thing. Even though I think these two are roughly the same in terms of when they became Christians, I think the oldest one probably became a Christian first. I could be wrong about that. You'd have to ask the two of them and sort of noodle it out between them. But regardless that, okay, you will find that they are in different places in what they're doing and how they're acting and so forth. And yes, I'm different as well. And obviously the other two siblings in the family are in totally different places, completely different places from any of us. And I have a son who I think is pretty much decided, and I don't know if I would put it quite like this. Maybe I would call him an agnostic, but he may very well think himself an atheist. That's totally possible. I don't agree with what he believes, but I believe at this point he's where God has him where he needs to be in order to hopefully move him into a place where at some point he becomes a believer. I'm not, quote, responsible for that. I tried to bring him up in a way where he had a solid upbringing. I know that didn't work out quite the way I would have liked it to. Nonetheless, I think that's sort of how things worked out. My point is to say, though, this idea that our place is wrong because we don't agree with all of those around us is a foolish idea. It's a wrong-headed idea. If you honestly think that other people who are around you are wrong because they don't agree with, and believe the same things that you do, guess what? You're really mistaken, if on no other basis than that they're in a different place in development than you. And they may be, quote, ahead of you, and they may be behind you. They may be on some parallel track that you'll never see. But hopefully they get you to what amounts to the same place and believing in God and coming to the conclusion that everything is as the Bible says it is. Maybe not. I hope that it's true, but maybe not. But my point is to say the places people are not wrong because I don't hold with everything that they have to say. And I hope that you realize that that's the case as well. So this is kind of what I was trying to get across when I decided to discuss the idea of our places on the Daily Summation today. So I hope that you get it. I hope that you realize that if you have a brother who's older than you are and it seems like that individual is less mature than they ought to be, that maybe in the course of time they'll come to basically the same place you are now, or maybe you'll realize at some point that they were more mature than you thought they were when you looked at them. This is kind of what I'm trying to get across. We're not all going to be in the same place, and you shouldn't expect or believe that's going to be true. Okay, I need to go ahead and wrap things up. This is the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host. I'm Kurt, and today is Saturday, the 14th of August of 2021. Tomorrow will be Sunday, the 15th of August of 2021. Thank you for everyone who's been here on Rumble, on the podcast, on YouTube. Remember, Rumble is my preferred platform. You can give me a positive Rumble or a plus or a boxing glove on Rumble if you choose to do so. Obviously, you can also give me a negative Rumble. I'd love to know why if you choose to do that, though I can understand that maybe you'll just look at what I'm saying and say this is total rubbish or whatever and feel like there's not much more that you can say to that. Remember that you can give me a thumbs up or a like or a thumbs down or a dislike on the video on YouTube if you want to do that. And on both Rumble and YouTube, you can give me a comment to explain where I'm bad, wrong, and lame, or how you agree with me, or whatever it happens to be. Subject for today has been our places, and tomorrow we're going to talk about invited. And this is kind of an interesting subject, and it has to do with illegal aliens. And I wanted to kind of discuss something that I saw and heard somebody on Rumble say that I kind of don't agree with, and I wanted to explain why it was that I have problems with that. Hope you're having a good day today. For those of you that are Sabbath adherents, I hope that your Sabbath is a good one. Hope everything is going well for you, and hopefully we will see you again on Sunday's edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. The speaker on this edition of the Daily Summation is Kurt Schubert. This video was recorded on Saturday, the 14th of August of 2021. The Daily Summation is created for Kurt's Religion and Politics. Thanks for watching this edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I hope you found it entertaining or instructional, or maybe both. If you want to see more from me, you can go to blogs.kpschubert.com. That's blogs.kpschubert.com. I am on Twitter, Parler, and Minds.com. My handle on each of those is @kpschubert. That's @kpschubert. I have a Rumble and a YouTube channel. They are the Kurt's Religion and Politics channels on Rumble and YouTube. I have a Facebook page. The Facebook page is Kurt's Religion and Politics as well. I am on Patreon. If you want to support me, that's one of the better places you can do that. And you will find me at Kurt's Religion and Politics on Patreon. I have a podcast. The podcast is podcasts with an S .kpschubert.com. That's podcasts.kpschubert.com. I think you should be able to find me with relative ease on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify as well. The best way I find to do that is to look for Kurt's Religion and Politics. You can try to use the Daily Summation. I find that it doesn't work as well as a general rule, but you can always try that. I'm glad to have you aboard today, and hopefully we will see you again tomorrow.